Understanding the President's key priorities and vision for federal spending is critical to the success of the entire funding process here in Congress. Republicans agree that we need to remain focused on important goals like the continued rebuilding of our military, keeping up the fight against opioid abuse, and addressing the ongoing security and humanitarian crisis at our southern border. As the senior senator from Kentucky, I was especially encouraged to see the President's commitment to our nation's veterans front and center, including a request to fully fund construction of the new Robley Rex VA Medical Center in my hometown of Louisville. Together with my Senate colleagues, I look forward to carefully reviewing the administration's priorities as this year's funding process moves ahead. Now, in another matter, Madam President, building on last week's progress, the Senate will consider two more of President Trump's outstanding judicial nominees, in addition to another executive branch nominee this week. The first item of business is the nomination of Paul Mattei of New Jersey to the Third Circuit Court of Appeals. Mr. Mattei holds degrees from Scranton and Seton Hall universities, as well as clerkships on our nation's federal courts. He's served the people of his state in the office of U.S. Attorney in New Jersey and has built an impressive record. So I hope my colleagues will join me in voting to advance and confirm Mr. Mattei and those other distinguished nominees so the Senate can fulfill our responsibility to the American people. On a final matter, here's a quote. I think the $33 trillion price tag for Medicare for all is a little scary. That came, Madam President, from a Democratic member of Congress who happens to sit in a leadership role. She sounds worried, and I don't blame her. The new House Democrat majority has wasted no time at all, rolling out one half-baked socialist proposal after another. Apparently, the remarkable job growth, wage growth, and new opportunities pouring into communities across America have failed to persuade my Democratic friends of a simple reality. That things go pretty well when government gets its foot off the brake and lets American families live their lives without oppressive supervision from Washington Democrats. Apparently that's just inconceivable because the outlandish government-driven proposals to take over one economic sector after another continue to roll in. We've all heard about the Green New Deal, the far left's master plan to hurt America's energy independence, disrupt millions of workers' livelihoods, and put entire industries out of business, and let Washington regulators redesign every building in America while letting China and other countries off the hooks. And that's just for starters, Madam President. And we've all heard about the price tag as estimated by one research outfit that's actually taken a shot at hanging some numbers on all the vague pie in sky language. They calculated the total could exceed $90 trillion. But let's not lose sight of the other party-defining socialist pivot that many Democrats are rushing to embrace, Medicare for none. Yes, Madam President, Democrats have taken the pulse of the American people, and here's what they've decided. They've decided that American seniors want their Medicare hollowed out until the only thing left is the name. They've decided that middle-class families are eager to be kicked off their health insurance plans and forced into a one-size-fits-all government alternative. Oh, and they've decided that taxpayers up and down the income scale are just clamoring to send much more of their money to the IRS. No choices, no options, no alternatives, no more Medicare as we know it. Every single American has to obediently take a seat and buckle up for the Democrats' wild ride toward government-run health insurance. The sequel to Obamacare and its soaring premiums is coming soon to a Democratic press conference near you. And this time, they want to turn the entire system over to those bureaucrats and make it unlawful unlawful to possess competing private coverage. That sends quite a message, doesn't it? My colleagues are so confident American families will love their new government-mandated health care plan that they feel compelled to outlaw any competition. So it's already been quite an experience watching liberal leaders grapple publicly with the question of whether, in fact, their movement is seriously going to double down on these socialist policies. Michael Bloomberg said this sort of proposal, quote, would bankrupt us for a very long time. Speaker Pelosi herself had to wonder publicly, how do you pay for that? Well, if you're Vermont or Colorado, two places that have flirted with the idea of single-payer health care, here's a simple answer. You don't pay for it because you can't. In 2014, when Vermont grappled with a proposal to implement a state-run single-payer system, the governor's office was forced to conclude from its own analysis that the cost of the program would nearly double state spending in its first year of implementation and could lead to $100 million deficits within 5 years. That was in Vermont. In 2016, Colorado Democrats put forward a ballot measure to pursue this in their state. Once again, the program's costs were projected to exceed the entire state's budget. So voters rejected it. In Colorado, 80% of them rejected it, to be exact. Those are just two states. But this is exactly the kind of broken mathematics that Democrats are now hoping to force on our entire country. An estimated $32 trillion over the first 10 years at least. That's more than the government has laid out in the last 8 years combined on everything. On everything. Now, I'm sure we'll be advertised the same old left-wing talking points about millionaires and billionaires magically paying for all of it. How often have we heard that? As I've noted before, it's just not possible. There aren't enough millionaires or billionaires in the entire country to pay the tens of trillions of dollars this takeover would require. Even if the IRS seized every cent Americans earned beyond $1 million, all of it, took all their money, it wouldn't even cover half the hole in this proposal would leave in the Treasury. That's why one economist wrote, the simple fact is that Medicare for all would require a dramatic shift in the federal tax structure and a substantial tax increase for almost all Americans. Almost all Americans. Even leading Democrats can't help but laugh at this stuff. This was Governor Andrew Cuomo of New York describing this idea in the context of his own state. It's what he said, the Democratic governor of New York. No sane person will pass it. You would double everyone's taxes. You want to do that? So parts of the Democratic Party here in Congress are running toward a policy that's even the stalwart liberal governor of New York derides as out of this world expensive and impractical. No wonder some Democrats are worried about the radical rumblings within their party. Fortunately, the American people don't have to worry a bit, at least not for now. This craziness will never get through the United States Senate.